Here is something nobody wants to say directly to your face. The reason good people get treated badly has nothing to do with the people treating them badly. It has everything to do with what the good person is silently agreeing to, every time, without realizing it, without meaning to, without understanding that their patience, their forgiveness, their determination to see the best in people, all of it when applied without limits, stops being a virtue and starts being an open invitation. I am not saying this to be harsh. I'm saying it because I lived it, and because the day I finally heard it clearly was the day my life began to actually change. 3 years ago, someone I genuinely loved treated me like I was disposable, lied to my face, disappeared when I needed them, made me feel consistently and systematically like I was too much and never enough at the same time. And I stayed. I absorbed it. I rationalized it. I told myself that's what good people do. They forgive, they hold on, they don't give up on people they care about. I wore my tolerance like a badge of honor, while quietly falling apart underneath it. Then something cracked open. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But I started to understand that I had been operating with no rules, that I had made myself so easy to mistreat, that mistreatment had become the default, that the people causing me pain weren't doing it in spite of my goodness. They were doing it because of it, because I had shown them repeatedly that there were no consequences, that I would stay, that I would forgive, that the door would always be open no matter what they did on their way through it. So I built 5 rules, 5 specific behaviors I decided, once and for all, I would never accept again, from anyone. Family, friends, partners, colleagues. No exceptions, no special cases, no but it's complicated. And when I started enforcing those rules, everything reorganized. The people who couldn't operate within basic decency left. The people who were capable of real respect stayed. And the life I was left with was one I actually wanted to be inside. These are the 5 behaviors. I'm taking them from the one people overlook the most, all the way to the one that causes the most destruction. By the time we reach the 5th, you will look at certain relationships in your life and see them with completely different eyes. But first, one thing you must understand before any of this lands the way it should. Being a good person does not mean being an unlimited person. Loving someone does not mean accepting whatever they hand you. Kindness is not the same as surrender. You can be warm and have standards. You can be forgiving and still have lines. The people in your life who are treating you badly are only able to keep doing it because somewhere along the way you taught them that it was allowed. That lesson can be untaught. It starts with these 5 rules. Behavior 1, someone lies to you. It starts small, almost always. A story that doesn't quite add up. A detail that shifts between tellings. Something your gut catches before your mind does, and then your mind talks your gut out of it. Maybe I misheard. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Maybe it's not worth making into a thing. Stop right there. When someone lies to you, they are not just bending the truth. They are making a decision about you, specifically that you are not someone who deserves the truth, that you can be managed, that your perception of reality is something they can shape for their own convenience. Every lie, no matter how small, is a quiet statement. You don't matter enough for honesty, and every time you let it pass, you agree with them. Here's what to do instead. The moment you recognize a lie as not suspect, not wonder about, but recognize, you name it. Calmly, without raising your voice, without building a courtroom case, without performing emotion. You simply say, that's not true. I know what actually happened, and then you stop talking. You don't chase it. You don't demand a confession. You just put it in the room and let it sit there. What happens next tells you everything. A person who is capable of a real relationship will feel the weight of being seen, and they will either come clean or they will reflect. A person who is not capable of a real relationship will deny it harder or get angry at you for noticing. Both responses are information, valuable, clarifying, necessary information. I spent years letting people lie to me. Small things, big things. I absorbed all of it and told myself I was being understanding. What I was actually doing was building a life on a foundation of things that weren't true. The moment I started naming lies, the moment they happened, the liars vanished from my world. Not slowly, quickly. Because people who rely on deception don't stay in environments where deception gets called out. They move on to easier targets. And what I was left with, for the first time in a long time, were people who told me the truth. Even when it was uncomfortable, even when it would have been easier to soften it, because they knew I would notice the difference. Behavior 2. Someone treats your time as if it costs nothing. Time is the one thing in your life that is absolutely, irreversibly finite. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose a job and find another one. You can lose almost anything and rebuild. But every hour that passes is gone permanently. There is no recovering it. No amount of future success gives it back to you. So when someone treats your time casually, shows up late without real acknowledgement, cancels at the last minute as though your schedule is endlessly flexible, makes you wait as if your time has no competing demands, promises to do something and then quietly doesn't, they are not just being careless. They are telling you something about what they think you're worth. People who genuinely respect you show up when they say they will. They follow through on what they've committed to. They understand that your time was arranged around their presence, and they treat that arrangement as something that matters. That's not a high standard. That's the minimum floor of basic respect. Your new rule is this: one time. That's the grace period. The first instance gets addressed, clearly, without aggression, without making it dramatic. My time matters to me. If this keeps happening, I can't keep making space for it. That's the warning. It's the only one. If it happens again, you stop arranging your life around someone who has demonstrated they won't do the same for you. I know this feels extreme when you're inside a relationship where you care about the person. But ask yourself something honest. How many hours have you spent waiting? How many times have you rearranged your entire day for someone who treated your flexibility as a given? How many times have you done for someone what they would never have done for you and then felt a strange guilty confusion about why it hurt? Here is what nobody tells you about enforcing this boundary. When you stop accepting it, the people who actually care step up. They realize, sometimes for the first time, that your time is not unlimited, and they start treating it accordingly. The people who were just exploiting your availability disappear, and the space they leave behind gets filled with people who actually show up. Behavior 3. Someone makes you feel wrong for being who you are. This is the most insidious one on this list, because it almost never looks like what it is. It doesn't arrive wearing a sign. It wears the costume of honesty, of humor, of concern. It sounds like this: you're too sensitive. I'm just being real with you. You always do this. Can't you take a joke? I'm only saying it because I care. These words are engineered, consciously or not, to make you doubt your own experience, to make you feel like the problem is your reaction, not their behavior, to shrink you down to a size that's more manageable for them. Because here is what is actually happening when someone consistently makes you feel bad for being yourself. They are elevating themselves at your expense. Your smallness is the price of their comfort, and the cruelest part is that it works. Because you trust them, because you've given them access to the version of you that actually cares what they think. And so when they use that access to make you feel defective, you believe it. Because why would someone who loves you lie about this? I had someone in my life who did this for years. Every time something good happened for me, they found the flaw in it. Every time I was genuinely happy, they introduced a reason I shouldn't be. I thought they were keeping me grounded. What they were actually doing was keeping me down, because my contentment somehow threatened something in them, and making me uncertain was how they resolved that threat. The day I said, clearly and finally, "Don't speak to me that way," they said I was being too sensitive. And that was all I needed to hear. Because a person who responds to your boundary by invalidating your right to have it has just told you exactly who they are. Your rule: no one gets to make you feel broken for existing as yourself. Not once, not as a pattern, not ever. The moment someone's presence in your life consistently leaves you feeling less than, less capable, less worthy, less certain of your own experience, that person does not belong in your life. It is that simple, and it is non-negotiable. Behavior 4. Someone takes everything and gives nothing back. Pay attention to the pattern, not the moments. In any single moment, an imbalance can be explained. They're going through something. They're overwhelmed. They need more right now than they can give. That's fine. Real relationships have seasons, and sometimes one person carries more than the other. But a pattern is different from a season. A pattern is a structural reality. And the pattern I'm describing looks like this. You are always the one who reaches out first. You are the one who shows up. You listen to their problems for hours, and they check out 5 minutes into yours. When things are hard for them, you appear. When things are hard for you, they have somewhere else to be. You give and give and give, and what returns to you is the assumption that you will keep giving. This kind of relationship doesn't announce itself as toxic. It feels like love, and because you are loving, it feels like friendship, because you are being a friend. But underneath the feeling, quietly and steadily, it is draining you. It takes your energy, your time, your emotional reserves, and it gives you back obligation. The subtle pressure to keep being available, to not make it complicated, to not need too much. Here is the test that will give you clarity faster than any conversation. Stop initiating. Stop calling first. Stop being the one who shows up. Not permanently, just long enough to see what happens on the other side of your absence. Who reaches out? Who wonders where you went? Who comes forward asking what happened? The ones who do, those are your people. Those are the ones who are in relationship with you, not just benefiting from you. The ones who don't, who vanish the moment your giving stops, were never really there. They were there for what you provided. And when the provision stopped, so did they. I did this. I stopped initiating with several people I had invested enormous energy into. Some of them reached out, and those conversations rebuilt into something real. Others disappeared completely, and I realized they had been gone long before I stopped calling. The grief of that is real, and so is the relief. Protect your energy like it's the most valuable resource you have, because it is. Give it to people who return it, not equally, not transactionally, but genuinely. People who notice when you're running low, people who show up without being asked. Those people exist. Make room for them by stopping the endless outflow to the ones who never will. Behavior 5. Someone crosses a boundary you already clearly set. This is the one that does the most damage. And it's the most important thing on this entire list. So stay with me. A boundary is not a request. It is not a preference. It is not a suggestion open for negotiation. It is a rule you have set in order to protect your own well-being. And the moment you establish it clearly with another person, one of two things becomes possible. Either they respect it, which tells you they respect you, or they cross it, which tells you something you absolutely need to know. Everyone understands this in theory. Here is where it breaks down in practice. Consequences. A boundary without a consequence is not a boundary. It is a wish. It is you expressing a preference and hoping the other person decides to honor it out of the kindness of their heart. And some people will, but others will test it. They'll apologize after they cross it. They'll make excuses. I forgot. I didn't think it was a big deal. You're overreacting. And if nothing follows, they'll cross it again and again. Because the absence of a consequence told them that the boundary wasn't real, that it was theater, that they could operate however they wanted, and what was waiting on the other side was more forgiveness. So here is the rule that changes everything. 1 warning, not 2. Not multiple chances because the relationship is important. 1. You set the boundary, they cross it, you state clearly that if it happens again, you are done. And then if it happens again, you are done. No discussion. No renegotiation. No special circumstances that make this particular instance an exception. I know how brutal this sounds. I know how much it costs when the person crossing the boundary is someone you love. I spent a long time giving one more chance to someone who used every chance I gave them to demonstrate, more clearly each time, that my limits meant nothing to them. And I kept telling myself I was being compassionate. What I was actually doing was teaching them that my words had no weight, that I would announce consequences I would never deliver, that the cost of disrespecting me was 0. The day that changed, everything changed. I stopped forgiving what hadn't been corrected. I stopped explaining myself to people who hadn't changed, despite the explanations. And I realized something that had been true the whole time, but that I hadn't let myself see. The people who had been crossing my limits weren't forgetting them. They were choosing to ignore them. There is a difference between a mistake and a decision. A mistake is something someone does once and corrects. A decision is something someone does repeatedly, because the cost of continuing is lower than the cost of stopping. When someone crosses a boundary, you've clearly stated more than once, they are not making a mistake. They are making a decision about you, and you deserve to respond to it as the decision it is. Here is what I want you to sit with after this. None of these rules require you to become cold. None of them require you to harden into someone who trusts no one and lets no one in. What they require is that you decide, finally, clearly, without apology, that you are worth basic decency, that your time is worth respecting, that your reality is worth honoring, that your limits are worth observing. The people who are capable of loving you properly will have no problem with any of that. They will meet these standards without being asked, because people who are capable of real relationships naturally operate this way. The only people who will resist these rules, who will call them extreme or unfair or too demanding, are the people these rules were designed to filter out. I used to accept all 5 of these behaviors, every single day, from multiple people. And I told myself I was strong for enduring it, noble for forgiving it, evolved for rising above it. What I was actually doing was making myself small enough to fit into spaces that had never been built for me. The moment I stopped, the moment I decided that my peace was more important than other people's comfort with my lack of limits, everything reorganized. The people who couldn't operate within basic decency left my life. And the people who remained or who arrived after were people who made me feel like myself, not despite these rules, because of them. You don't need permission to protect yourself. You don't need to justify where your limits are. You don't need to build a case for why you deserve to be treated well. You simply need to start acting like you believe it, because the day you do, the actual day it shifts from something you know to something you live. That is the day everything around you begins to match it.